Hey guys, it's Tara. Welcome to the Bad Luck Club. I recently had a cool experience where I got to go to the Gamers Ranch in Missouri as part of Adam 2025. I was invited there by Eagle-Gryphon Games, Queen Games, and Inside Up Games, and I got to spend the weekend connecting with other content creators as well as playing some games from these publishers that are either recently in Kickstarter, going to Kickstarter, or some new releases that they wanted to showcase. And now I am here to tell you about some of the games that I played. First up is a series of 3 games from Inside Up Games. All of them are by different designers and they all have different mechanics, but they do all come inside of a box that looks like a book. All of the books are different sizes, so it's emulating a real bookshelf where not all of your books are identical. And that just also goes along with how different the games themselves are. So up first, I played Crits and Tricks, which is a fun trick-taking game. It's unique in that your cards don't have values, so the different suits don't have values on them, and the way that you get the values for the cards is by rolling a bunch of different dice from a d4 to a d20. The dice that you roll, you're going to be assigning to the cards as you play them in the tricks and trying to either win or lose the trick depending on what the leading suit is. So it's a pretty unique take on a trick taker, which is exciting because, as a lot of you know, trick taking games have kind of been really popular right now. So seeing one that does introduces new mechanics is always fun. That was the excitement behind Cat in the Box, having your cards with no color and assigning the color and value to it as you play, and maybe boxing yourself into a corner. This one's a little bit different where you do have a bit more leeway. You're not going to find yourself in a paradox in the same way. But being able to assign the value to the cards as you go is super fun, and I found it pretty unique. Really looking forward to this one as a fan of trick-taking games in general. After that, I played Tug of Roar. Tug of Roar is a lane battler in which you are bidding for the cards that you are going to be setting up to use in battle against your opponent. So there is a bit of an element where you are playing kind of a memory game, since you're building your deck, but you're only drawing 3 cards at a time that you then have to play onto the battlefield, and they'll resolve at the end of the game. You also need to time your bids correctly because you're going to be using your leaders for the beginning bids to draft your hands. And then at the end of the game, you're going to be using your remaining leaders to do another bidding process where you are trying to strengthen your troops that you just spent the mid part of the game building. So yeah, timing your actions with what number leader card you're using is imperative. And as a person who's not the biggest fan of bidding games, I found this one super fun. I was really excited to bring it home and share it with some friends who I like playing 2-player games with. The final game that I played in this trilogy is Thieves of Eldris. Thieves of Eldris is a hidden movement game where everyone is assigned 2 different characters who are traversing around this market. Nobody knows who the other is, and you're trying to deduce who they are. And you're doing that by quietly robbing different people who are on the board. Basically, you are trying to position yourself to get next to a person who's holding a good, and then only at that point, once you're adjacent to them, can you rob them. However, there are ways to throw other people off by not necessarily moving your own character. You might be moving other characters around, and you may already be adjacent to the person you're trying to rob. So trying to set yourself up next to them, stealing from them, and then having people try to figure out and deduce who you are. But yeah, so there's a lot going on in that one. And as far as hidden movement goes, I think it's pretty unique. I don't play a ton of hidden movement games. It was hard. It was hard for me. I watched other people that I was playing with pick it up, or not pick it up, because the rules and mechanics overall are pretty straightforward. However, watching them deduce who was interesting to me. I was struggling with that personally, and I honestly got picked off the field pretty quickly, but it was a lot of fun. Overall, really looking forward to this trilogy, and I will post the link to that so you can late back it. If you're interested in any of them, go check the games out. I highly recommend all of them, and there might be something for you. There should be something for everybody in the series. Another game that I got to play from Inside Up Games is a game that will be coming to Kickstarter this summer. It's called Kalypso. In Kalypso, you are rescuing people and trying to build out a new community for them. So basically, you are on an island that you are building out from. You need to you need to find sources to feed the people on this island. New people are going to be coming to this island as it expands, so you need to be able to step your game up and be able to feed them. And you are doing that by creating long-lasting food sources like gardens for them, as well as fishing from the surrounding waters. And this is short term, so every round of the game, you need to fish to feed your population again and again. This game is a tile placement game, which I love. It's one of my favorite mechanics in a game. As a Tetris lover, anything that involves a polyomino really does it for me. So I'm going to flock to a game that has tiles in it. So yeah, this is like a fun game where you are working together. There is some simultaneous gameplay if you're playing cooperative, which is the mode that I played. I did not play competitive. Very much looking forward to trying competitive, as I'm not necessarily the biggest cooperative gamer. That's maybe a lie. I do like cooperative games, but with the right group and the right game. But yes, so I played the cooperative mode where you're working together. So there is simultaneous gameplay where you're putting your pieces out to work toward a common end goal, which you'll need to have finished by the end rounds of the game, and in-game goals. So there are weather conditions that pop up, and you will need to meet the conditions that are on that weather card in order to survive that level. So there's like a fun balance of trying to work towards this long-term goal as well as completing the short-term goals, and housing the people on your island, making sure that they're fed, making sure that they are operating different businesses, such as getting boats out and tending the gardens and everything. So there's a lot going on in this game. It's unique to me in that you are placing tiles to build out these areas, and then once you have met certain conditions, you're placing other tiles on top, and you're kind of getting to pick what side of the tile you want, and they both do different things. So really trying to figure out which ones are going to benefit you the most at the time as you're placing those tiles is important. There's a lot to it. It's super fun. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I will share a link for that one as well. And I'll be talking about that one more on Instagram too as the Kickstarter launches. Those are all of the games that I played from Inside Up Games. So next I'm going to talk about some of the games that I played from Queen's Games, which I played several of. The first game that I played from Queen's Games is Moonlight Market. In Moonlight Market, you are bidding to draft jewels that you are going to be making necklaces with. The kicker is you can only have 3 jewels in each of your necklace. So if you ever draft a 4th one, whether on purpose or maybe because that's all you're left over with, you are going to have to clear that column and discard your jewels. So if you're building up and you have a really strong necklace, you might have to end up getting rid of all of it, which isn't the best feeling, but it happens inevitably. So basically every round, you and everyone else at the table are drafting these jewels by bidding on them. You're then going to be placing them. Some have 2 jewels on them, so you get to decide which necklace you want to assign them to. At the end of the round, once everyone has their jewels placed on their tableau, you are going to add up the value of all of the jewels that are there, and then the winner of that is going to score points. It is like a tiered point system from 1st to 3rd place for the values that you have on your necklace. I had a lot of fun with this game because there was a lot of planning ahead in it that I wasn't expecting going into it. You can see what jewels are going to be coming up in future bids. And there is also a little bit of manipulation where once you play a card, that becomes your bid for the full round. So if you're going to play a low card, you're probably going to get kicked. And a good way to do that is to go somewhere where you don't necessarily want to go, because it's going to make other people think that they can best you by going there and taking that away from you. but jokes on them because you didn't want to be there anyway. So it just kind of gives you an opportunity to then go where you would rather go. But since their card's already placed, they're out of the running and you have a higher chance of ending up where you want to. Maybe that's just how I was playing the game. Maybe that's how the game was intended to be played, but I kind of liked that little like mind game part of it. But yeah, this one's super fun. If you are into drafting and bidding games, this is one that you should definitely keep your eye on. The next game that I played from Queen's Games is Dabba Walla, which is a game that takes place in Mumbai where you are working as a food delivery driver. However, their food service is a little bit different there, where they have people making homemade lunches every morning and then going out and delivering them to different office workers in the afternoon for lunch. In the game, you are drafting different polyominoes that you are trying to put in your cart in the most efficient way. So basically, you're stacking the different levels of food that you're going to be taking, as well as chai, to the different offices, and you're trying to do that in the best way possible. The further you stack, it does get more challenging because you can't have empty spaces. So there are times when you might have to take a negative point to fill in the spaces that you need to complete the bottom layout. And then at the end of the game, you will have cards that you are using to bid on the value of the food items that you have stacked throughout the game. So we're going to resolve the carts one level at a time, and you are going to place a value on them. So everyone's kind of playing a card to say like whether they think green or the different, like whatever food types have a higher value, and that is going to be the multiplier for that round. So the more food that you have on each level of that color, that is going to be your points payout at that point. That one was like way more brain burning than I was expecting. You kind of want to diversify each level just to make sure you have like a color of any food type on that level, just so you can be part of the scoring process. But it does get difficult because then you don't have as much of that food on each level. So while you are scoring points, your multiplier is a lot lower. So there is a lot of need to make sure you have the cards in your hand that coordinate with the color tiles that you're playing so that you can effectively boost those multipliers and block other people from taking that away from you. The next game I played from Queen Games is Star Explorer. Star Explorer is a flip and write, which I am a huge fan of. It is not in the States yet, but it will be soon. So we were some of the first people that got to play it, which is really cool. But basically you're building out a solar system of stars. So everyone has their own unique constellations that they're building. And on each round, you are trying to score the most points that you can by connecting certain stars to build out your constellation. Each round is going to score individually, and then there is end game scoring where you are trying to position your constellations in certain spots in the night sky where they're the most visible. This one started easy, but by the end of it, you are so limited on space where you're squeezing your constellations and trying to get the most points that you can that it just becomes a super brain burning puzzle. There is a lot of simultaneous gameplay, which I love that, especially in games like that are a bit more thinky because everyone's kind of processing at the same time and you're not waiting for one person necessarily to think through like the most optimal turn. Everyone's thinking through the most optimal turn at the same time. I found this game to be a ton of fun. I'm very excited to bring it out. It is one that you can teach super quickly and you can have everyone playing it. But since there is a lot of thought process to it, it would appeal to a wide range of gamers because it's not just like a game that you kind of like throw on the table and like chat. Like everyone is going to be locked in trying to find the best star situation for their tile that they have in front of them. The last game that I played from Queen's Games is Chichen Itza, which is an up-and-coming Feld game, and I am over the moon that I was able to play a prototype of this game. Stefan Feld is one of my favorite designers. I'm a huge Castles of Burgundy fan, but to know Castles of Burgundy is to love Castles of Burgundy. So I am not unique in that by any means. playing this new game by him made me feel super lucky. This game is not like any other Feld that I've played in that there is a lot of area majority in it, and there is a little bit of battling. You have some action selection going on. You can go in the same place as somebody else, and if you do go in the same place as somebody else, you are going to be paying a higher value to go there later. So timing your actions is imperative. You are going to be upgrading your different abilities, which is a ranged and melee attack, how far you can move, and how much shield you have to protect you in battles. You are moving around a map trying to collect different gems. Gems give you upgrades, and they are also worth points at the end of the game. In addition to that, you're trying to complete different goals, which trigger at different levels of the sun throughout the game. And yeah, basically you're trying to knock each other off the map. There's not a ton of like pushback from dying, other than you lose your guys and you kind of have to start over again. But battle is pretty straightforward. You are rolling dice and trying to see how strong you are. And again, the upgrades that you have for your ranged and melee attack really come into play here, and how good you are at rolling dice. Hint, Tara's Bad Luck Club did not come from nowhere. And if there is a die roll involved, I will roll the worst possible thing that I can roll almost every time, guaranteed. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I'll also share more details about that. Again, this is a prototype, so there are some things that will be changing. Pictures I'm showing are not final artwork by any means. There are also going to be some tweaks to the game, and some more clarity. There was like some stuff on there that was a little confusing as far as like movement. Very excited to play a new Feld. Like, what an amazing opportunity. I'm freaking out. Are you freaking out? The final game that I played from one of the publishers that was hosting this event was House of Fado from Eagle-Gryphon Games. I had such a hard time pronouncing that. I literally looked it up. The internet says Fado, so that's what I'm going to say. So House of Fado is a game that is a pared down version of the Gallerist, and in that I mean it has a lot of shared mechanisms in the Gallerist. However, it's a bit easier to table. There's a little less going on, a little less avenues in which you can score, so you have a lot more streamlined focus in the game. In House of Fado, you are creating a restaurant in Portugal where you have a band playing music for your patrons. You are hiring different musicians who are then becoming more skilled. You are showcasing these musicians. You are letting them go. Oops, oh no, you're maybe letting them go, not because they're not performing well, but because maybe you want to bring in some new up-and-coming talent that you are trying to graduate to a further skill level on their own. But yes, this game is a lot of fun. There is a kick-out mechanic, so if you are on an action space, it is a worker placement game, so if somebody else wants to go there, they can boot you, and you do get a bonus for getting kicked out of a space. So there is some timing involved in that, which you can see somebody else might be looking to bring more patrons to their establishment, so you might want to go there a turn ahead of them if you can, so that they can kick you out to get more patrons, and you will get a pushback for that. Not a pushback. You will get a kickback for that. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I thought that there was a good amount of weight to it still, where I couldn't necessarily table this with everyone that I play games with, but it was heavy enough to kind of scratch an itch when you want to play something a bit on the heavier side, but you don't necessarily have the time to sit down and play a 4-hour board game. At 3 or 4 players, I was done this game within an hour or two. There are 5 different stars on the board. Once 3 stars have been taken by any players, that triggers the end game. The round will finish, and then end game scoring happens immediately. We did also set up Speakeasy and try to play Speakeasy, but there was so much going on, too much fun, too little time, and I did not get to play that, but I am excited to play it. All right, so I wanted to go over first all of the games that I played by the publishers who invited me to this event. So those are all of the games that I played by them. I will be sharing links to everything down below, whether it's Kickstarters or copies of the game that are already out. and where you can pick those up. And if there is anything you have more questions on, please ask me in the comments. I am super happy to yap away and answer any questions that you have. Aside from that, I'm going to talk about some games that I played just for fun with my pals. I got to play Moon Colony Bloodbath by Eagle-Gryphon Games. This one has been on the BGG hot list. I'm excited I got to play it. It is a silly, ridiculous game. It is an engine builder where you have to build up and tear down your own engine. You have to kill people on your moon colony. You are getting pummeled the whole way of this game. So basically this game is just survival of the fittest or survival of the most outfitted. You are constantly adding monsters and stuff to the shared deck. Everyone is getting affected by the card draws, and there are different buildings that you can have in your own personal tableau that might protect you from them, but that only lasts so long and only against so many cards. So timing your actions is super imperative in this game. The deck will get shuffled, things will come out, and if your timing is not right for when those cards are drawn, you might get hit hard. This game is just seeing who can survive the longest and keep most of the population on their colony alive. It is fun. It is silly. It's also simultaneous gameplay. If you like games that you are not expecting to build stuff up, but to just hang on, then this is definitely a game that you should check out. A game that I've been playing a ton recently that I was excited to teach to my friends my first night I got to the Gamers Ranch was Fromage. Apparently the theme of this video is simultaneous gameplay, but there is a lot of simultaneous gameplay. You are all taking actions on your quadrant of the board at the same time, which will rotate once everyone's finished their turn. Each quadrant contains pretty much its own little mini game. I think it is super fascinating. I love the aging in the game. I love the different routes that you can take. I try to go pretty hard on the berry strat, but everyone has a different way to score points in this game. I got to play Cyclades, which everyone is really excited about, the reprint that's coming out. I did play the older version of the game that doesn't have the updated rule set yet. In this game, you are bidding for your actions. So everyone goes through, you might get knocked out of a bid, and then you have to go back and try again and outbid your opponents. And that is the action that everyone gets to take for the round. You are building out your territory, and you are trying to build some monuments. The first person that builds 2 wins the game. I got to build one pretty quickly, and that also quickly got stolen from me. That game was a lot of fun. Would I play it again? Maybe no, just because the game was fun. I recommend it if that is your type of game. It is not a terror type of game in that I don't like spending half my game building stuff up just to have somebody come in and knock it all down. I know some people think that that is fantastic, and I wish that I was one of those people, and I'm trying to be one of those people. But right now, I am not there yet. It was still a lot of fun. Every experience that I had this weekend was fun, so bless. I've been playing a ton of SETI. I was really happy to sit down and play this to some people who are near and dear to me. I had a blast teaching it. I had a blast playing it. SETI is so fun. I've been having a great time with it. Basically, you are going out there and you are launching a probe into outer space. You are orbiting different planets. You are landing on different planets. You are listening for traces of extraterrestrial life in outer space, and you are using those scan actions to find and discover different species out there. You are upgrading your technology. You are collecting data and using that data to make different realizations and discoveries. All of that is going to allow you to discover 2 different alien species throughout the game. There are 5 that come with the base game. I imagine that future expansions will be more aliens. I don't know for sure, but I can see that being the perfect direction to take the game in. But yeah, so I just the the game is so thematic. There is so much to it that like every action you take makes sense thematically. I love that in a game. I think it helps lead the game and understand the rule set better when everything just kind of comes together and makes sense. SETI to me just clicks. I love it. I love showing it to people. If you ever want to play it, find me at a convention. We will sit down and pop that game on the table. I also pulled out one of my favorite games to play with a big group, which is Ready, Set, Bet. It is like hands down one of my favorite racing games. It is so fun and the energy in that game is amazing. Again, simultaneous gameplay. Everyone's throwing down bets at the same time. You can either use the app to have the app call the horses for you, or you can have someone rolling dice and moving the horses. That is my favorite way to play it because it's so much more interactive, and depending on who you have like rolling the dice and moving the horses, they can be so fun and so silly. And tabled it. It was great. Lots of laughs to be had. Pretty sure I came in last place. I am so terrible at betting, but it's fake money, so it's okay. That one was fantastic. Last two games that I played, we played several times. I got to play The Gang, which I got to play The Gang at Gen Con last year, and we played several games of that, and it's so fun. If you like poker at all, it makes Texas Hold'em cooperative. I think it's pretty unique. I haven't played many games like that. But basically you are just kind of letting people know how good your hand is. As the flop and river come out, you will change your mind on how good your hand is. And you kind of discuss to a point what you have and how good you think you're going to do. There is limited communication, but it's kind of up to you and your group how you want to play that. It's so fun. We played this game several times. It was like the first game I played when I walked in the door. It was a game that I played like halfway through the weekend. Played it over and over again, trying to get to the end, adding challenges. I laugh a lot. I also messed up a lot. It is what it is. I also got to play Edo several times. Edo is maybe one of my new favorite party games. That's a loaded statement. I think party games are heavily dependent on the group that you are playing with. But Edo is kind of a mix of, wavelength meets the mind. I don't fully want to say that because it's not as like intuitive as the mind is. But you are definitely giving clues, and basically you'll have a category card that is like from 1 to 100, 1 being something like things that make a dog unhappy, and 100 being like things that make a dog super happy. And then everyone gets privately assigned a number from 1 to 100. They're looking at their card. It might be like 73. So, if 50 is neutral for not making a dog unhappy or happy, then you need to come up with something that's above neutral that is going to make your dog pretty dang happy, but not the happiest that they've ever been in their entire life. So everyone is kind of assigning something to their number. They read it out loud. You organize everyone's thoughts based on like what order you think they go in. Then you reveal it and see how you did, and if you were able to put them in order from 1 to 100. We had lots of laughs. Some people had ridiculous expectations for their numbers. So just kind of like working through what everyone was thinking when they put their card down. We laughed so much. There are also cards that are interactive. So you are almost doing charades. We had one that like who could do the silliest walk, essentially. So much fun. Could not recommend this game enough. A final game that I played was one that I played a Trick Taker, another one. This is a classic card game, which I got to play Spades. It was kind of like a late night game where we had just finished playing The Gang. Everyone was dropping off and going to bed, and we were like, oh, let's play one more game. I have played Spades before, but it's been probably close to 20 years since I've played it. So just getting a game out that is easy to table, and it was just fun to get a look inside of people's like family game that they play, the meta behind the game, how they play it, get to see kind of like a glimpse inside of who they are when they're playing games with their family and like the people closest to them. So it was a lot of fun to learn that, to also just kind of like get some help from my opponents and trust that they're just going to assist me in the game and not try to ruin my gameplay. But yeah, it was fun. The whole weekend was a very good time where I got to make a lot of close friendships, closer than I have had online. A lot of people I considered my friends going into this, but meeting them and spending a weekend with them in like an intimate way was a totally different experience that I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting to come home feeling how I did and developing as close of relationships as I did. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about any games or about the Adam experience or the Gamers Ranch. Anything that you want to ask me, I'm happy to answer. Just drop me a comment. But yeah, so that's a bit about my weekend and the games that I played. And that is everything. So welcome to the Bad Luck Club. I'm happy you're here.